extremely delighted to have Dr. Rajesh Komath today to talk on narrativizing performance and folk tradition. Dr. Rajesh Komath is an associate professor of social sciences in School of Social Science, Mahatma Gandhi University. He holds a double master's in sociology as well as in developmental economics and MPhil in applied economics, and he has done his research in interdisciplinary social sciences. He is also a member of Board of Science of Social Science, Heritage Studies, and Folklore. And apart from being an academician, his expertise extends to diverse fields. He's a intellectual, a singer, and a performing artist of the uh, ritualistic folk art K.A.H.M. He has also authored books on economics and folk arts, and he has also written many articles both in English and Malayalam for national and international journals, and also has presented numerous papers in national and international conferences. And I'm extremely honored to welcome Dr. Rajesh Komath to this session to talk on his field of expertise. I welcome you, sir. Next, I wholeheartedly welcome all the dignified guests gathered here to this session. Welcome you all. Thank you.
I'm extremely happy to be with you in this evening. And I thank Unity Women's College Manjeri for inviting me to make a conversation with you about this lecture on interdisciplinary series. Yeah, and as you all know very well, I have given a tentative title for my presentation is Narrativizing Performance and Folk Tradition. I hope most of you are from, English literature, culture studies, and disciplines of similar sort, who could only think about, interdisciplinarity in a wider sense. So I don't know how far you people are familiar with interdisciplinary studies. And of course, even if you are familiar with these kinds of studies, you will have your own positions on it. There are various disciplinary positions on this interdisciplinary work. One kind of work is, people often say that I am an interdisciplinary researcher. What does it mean? It means inter hyphen disciplinary. That's one meaning of that. Inter hyphen disciplinary. That is interdisciplinary. That means you stand in a discipline. You are mastered in a discipline and you are very well aware about the debates and concepts, philosophical background of that particular discipline, and you look at other disciplines. By standing in your own discipline, you're looking around other disciplines, taking out concepts, theories, debates, arguments from other disciplines, and trying to integrate into your discipline. That is one sort of interdisciplinarity. That is one way of looking at an object of study in an interdisciplinary way. You should think about, is this that the meaning that you have in your mind while you talk about interdisciplinary? That's one kind of interdisciplinary approach. That is, I repeat, that being a very ground-footed, place in your own discipline, and then looking at other disciplines, taking lessons from other disciplines, and try to say a social phenomenon, try to say a cultural phenomenon, try to say the world around us, how do it affect us? And that is one kind of interdisciplinary position that you call that inter-disciplinary. But there are other people who define interdisciplinary in another way. They would say that without a hyphen, interdisciplinary. If it is not without hyphen, then there is another meaning of that, meaning to that. What is that? Meaning is an interesting one. That it presupposes an intellectual position, that the person who do work on social sciences, humanities, or any of that sort doesn't consider that his discipline is important, or his discipline is the important engine of his thought. No. Rather, he tried to dismantle the discipline which he actually learned and trained. He would rather try to unlearn what he have already learned. That is another position. But that position is a little bit difficult position, very difficult to attain that position. It doesn't mean that you should not have any disciplinary background. No. If you don't have any disciplinary background, you cannot do an interdisciplinary work, or rather you cannot do any disciplinary work. So discipline matters. That is to unlearn it and also thereby learn about other disciplines. See, that is an interesting kind of open-mindedness, open-ended position that you should have to take on an interdisciplinary study. So there are different positions of that sort. Interdisciplinary studies are often defined as studies that belongs to none of the disciplines. Interdisciplinary studies are studies that negate all existing compartmentalization of disciplines and then try to create an independent object of analysis, an independent object of analysis. So it presupposes to have a total visibility of an object. For example, if you want to study something about, for example, in Indian context, it is very important to study caste. We all know that caste, what it is. We experience what is caste. We know how do it come to our life in the time of marriage, or in the time of love affairs, or in the time of everyday life. But we may not be able to define it theoretically. We may not be able to conceive it conceptually. That is an intriguing aspect of what is called the caste, or what is called gender. See, we all know that genders exist. There are gendered behavior, but it is often very difficult to talk about. Difficult to pinpoint in words what is this. Or for example, for that matter, patriarchy. We all say that it is a patriarchal society. We all know that how do patriarchy work within us, also outside. If it works within you, then you should understand that it will work outside, because human behavior is defined in such an interactionist way. What you have in your mind is being expressed in ways of actions, in ways of thoughts, and then that reflects into your behavior, social action, and expressions, language, and so on and so forth. So, interdisciplinary in the secondary kind of form, which I have explained, that the interdisciplinary person, interdisciplinary scholar, try to unlearn his own discipline try to dismantle the contours of his discipline, and then try to create a new object of analysis so that you can cull out multiple visibilities of that object. Not only one angle that you look at the object. You look at the object from below. You also look at the same object from above and from adjacent sides. You see various realities to that object, multiple realities to that object. And what comes in your memory while you see an object is also part of your social memory. That makes you a different kind of understanding about the object. That is why when we hear old film songs, it is about something which is an interesting aspect in the film, but it would have a different meaning for you to in your own life, because that film song might have affected affected you in your own context, in your own relations with somebody else, or in your own memory, that something you attained in a period or something you lose in a period or something you lost. Something you have lost is also a part of memory, that the song might sometimes memorialize you what had happened years ago, that will come in your mind as something which is called a everyday one. So these interdisciplinary studies, therefore, is a wide and open. And there you can take so many positions within it. You can take a feminist position. You can take a subaltern position. You can take up a Dalit position. You can take up a black perspective. You can take a different elite perspectives too, and elite aesthetical perspective. So it depends upon you, and there you are very important. The person who do this research or the person who write about something else is very important. Himself or herself is an integral part of the part of the matter that he's or she's writing, because one cannot negate his or herself while writing something, while thinking something, while doing something, while performing something. You cannot negate yourself, and so that you can have an objective knowledge about it. No. So people would often ask, then what about objectivity? The research is all about what our teachers, what our professors have taught us is an objectivity. You should be more objective. That is what the teachers have taught us. Then how can you do this kind of a work which is more subjective when you are so oriented to yourself? This is a pertinent question that often comes from the students and teachers, also scholars who do interdisciplinary studies. For example, history. People when do history, they will say that you should do objectively. Yourself, maximum level, you as a person, you as a researcher, you as a self should be cut out from the matter that you are going to write or from the matter that you are going to involve. You should deliberately remove yourself. Then you look at the object and write. That is what the conventional terms of objectivity. You should have an objective person to write about the phenomenon. But nowadays, people have critiqued of these kind of positions. How can you negate yourself when you write something else? Is it possible? Or the very persons who have also put forward this very idea of objectivity, is it true that their self is not there in the text they produced? I don't think so. They are there very much into the text that they created, into the text or the performance that they have made. So our action, our gestures, our even a wing of your eyes have very kind of meaning according to the context that we have. So it has a social meaning, it has a political meaning, it has a personal meaning, it is an intimate meaning. It's an intimate meaning of when you winking your eyes. There is an intimate meaning also, but that depends the context, what you have actually want to convey. So this is the kind of broader discussion of interdisciplinarity. Now I will come to the performance, narrativizing performances, narrativizing performance studies, or narrativizing performance and oral traditions. Because this performance is a concept that is more more acquainted to do an interdisciplinary study. Because what is performance? Performance can be, you know, uh, broadly defined as any kind of act. It can be a physical act. It can be a speech. It can be a speechless act. It can be an utter that you can say that it's a performance. And in everyday life, we all perform our own daily life. It doesn't mean that you act in your role as you act without conscious. You act as you are, and you are your act is completely genuine. That is a kind of thing that we think while we do something. But every act, every speech act, every action, every dialogue is an element of performance. You cannot negate performance of our action. For example, when we take classes, now what I am saying, I am speaking to you. I am speaking to you. I know that I am speaking to you. This is a kind of performance. Taking classes, taking in the classroom, because performance, what performance is? Performances, what is performances? What is performance is defined by the audience. There should be audience. They see a person speaking, a person's acting, a person's dancing. Then they are. If their audience are there, then automatically what you do become performance. In your house, when you do something else, when you talk about some kind of issue in your own house or in the kitchen, if nobody is there, then you can say that it is not a performance. But I would say that it is also again a performance. Even if there is no audience, there is a performance. Why? Because in a person, what do you think? What is thinking then? Thinking, when you think something and then only you act something. So you think something and then you say something. No matter nobody is around you, no matter for that, there is no audience. You speak yourself, and then you prepare some food in your kitchen. But you speak, but nobody knows that what you are speaking. But somebody coming and seeing that you are speaking something. So you would say that it is not performance. I am speaking to myself. I am making a conversation to myself. So it is my own kind of an action. So it is not performance. No, it is also performance, because in you what is, as you think, you try to make a conversation with yourself. So you yourself have decided to divide into two. That is a thinking you, that is somebody is thinking, and that is thinking is actually a talking. When you say that I am thinking, you are actually talking to yourself. You make yourself into two. One is talking to another self, and another self talk to another self. So you divide yourself into two dimensions, and then you think something which is a kind of talking to yourself. So it doesn't mean that there is no other person. There are other person where you create another within you and speak to him or speak to her in an intimate way, and then you do, and then you act. So then that is a performance. That itself is a performance. When you go to the toilet and singing a song, it is a performance. It's a performance means it affected you. That song, particular song, That particular song, as well as the tune of the song, the pitch of the song, the historical dimension of that particular song have affected you. It affected so much to yourself that unknowingly comes to your mind, and then you sing. So you cannot say that, you cannot negate. I mean, from the everyday life, you cannot negate this concept called performance. That is a beauty of the concept called performance. You cannot negate it in any form. If you want to say that, no, I am not acting, I am not performing, I am not, you cannot do that. As a human being, as a social being, you have to be an actor, or actress, or you have to be an performer, consciously sometimes, and otherwise, unconsciously. Anyway, it is not, you cannot avoid this kind of a phenomenon in your life. So what performance is so much concerned about interdisciplinarity is because the performance concept itself is interdisciplinary in nature. You don't need to, you don't need to formulate your concept performance, or as you do some other concept, for example, gender and all that, or caste and or other kind of thing, or economic rational activity and all that. You have to really conceptualize. Now you have to come up with the conceptualization. This is what I mean by this concept. But when you say that performance, and the very beginning itself, you don't need to, conceptualize as an interdisciplinary concept. It itself is an interdisciplinary concept, because performance encompasses words, action, music, dance, and whatnot. Performance is encompassed by all these strands of things, all these strands of knowledge. If you are a good if you are a good performer, you should have a very good sound body. You should have a very good mind, body, and performative aesthetical sensibility. If you are a good performer, your voice should be cultured. Your body should be cultured. Cultured in the means that it should be suited to the context. If you are acting as a father, it should be a father. You should act as a father. If you are acting in a household as a father, then you should be a father in that particular contextual household. Fathers are different from various contexts. The typical Mallu father in Kerala is different from a Mallu father from other fathers from other countries, and as well as the other states. The fatherhood, the idea of fatherhood is different. So as to the motherhood, so as to the other roles that one perform in our own daily life. So performance itself is an interdisciplinary concept, mainly because it encompasses all strands of our life. It encompasses text in the sense that the written form. It encompasses text. Text has both verbal and non-verbal characteristics. But it is a text. When you see film, it is a text. When you hear a music, it is a text. It is a text also, because something which is conveyed meaningfully to you, which is text. So when you say something to your father or mother, or or when you quarrel in your household, you quarrel with text. You quarrel with your words. You take up words. People say that people say that in some culture they will say that's a bad word. In other culture, it will be so acceptable, dignified word. So it context that determine. So performance, you see, the text is very integral part of it, and it is language. The word, the linguistic part is very integral to that idea of performance. So that you see, in performance, various texts are created. Shakespearean text, Bhasa text, and Kaudilya's text, daily and extra daily kind of Natya Shastra text. You see so many kind of variants of performance and acting. theories that have been put forward. So text is integral part, and text is integral part of human life. That is the thing. You cannot avoid, you cannot live without text. You have to be, if you want to be a social being, you have to engage with the text produced by that society. The text produced by the society, I mean, that is the language produced by that particular society. And language, as you know, have different kind of strands. I mean, language, the same Malayalam that we speak from northern Kerala is different from the same Malayalam that we speak from, central Kerala or the southern Kerala. The Hindi, when the Hindi, if you see the Hindi of the textbook Hindi, it's a different Hindi, and that the kind of Hindi that speak in daily life. The common people, peasants, workers, they speak different Hindi. But when their child come to the school, they read a different text of Hindi. That's a different Hindi. People would say that it's a elite cultured Hindi, whatever it may be. There are distinctions even from the same language. But performing that language is an important thing. Performing that language, you have to perform with the words. Then only the meaning is fully communicated. Otherwise, you cannot say that you cannot neglect. I mean, you cannot neglect the words, the language that you belongs to. And the language, as Asur and others has made very categorically, that it has a parole part and is a lang part. And lang is a set of structures of language. English have a certain structures of language. You cannot negate that rules. Malayalam has a certain set of structures of language. It is lang. It is applicable to everybody who know that particular language. But when you act that language, I mean, when you make it to a performative part of the language, then what it is, you take up a particular kind of parole, the second part of language. Parole is a kind of slang, pitch, and up and down pitch of the language. And that, if you are not using that slang in that language, you cannot really communicate the meaning that you actually intended to communicate. So what you do, you express that in your own slang, or in your own slang that is made possible in your life. So when you are there in Thrissur, coming from Thrissur, you speak Malayalam, but in a very different Malayalam. And meanings are different. For the same word, you have a different kind of meaning. And from Malabar, Thalassery, Kasaragod, and all those northern part of Kerala, when you come from and speaking the same language, in the language is same, the vocabulary is same, but the utterance is different. So that is you might have an n number of experience of that. So automatically you make fun of your own language by saying that what is this meaning of this? For example, when I am basically from Kannur, Thalassery, I belongs to I hailed from there, and I am completely immersed into that kind of a culture where the Malayalam is spoken in a very different way. And when I come to Kottayam as a teacher in the Mahatma Gandhi University, what I observed is that in our place in Thalassery, the word idi, that word idi in Malayalam, meaning that it is a real stunt between a person. Stunt between a person. Idi means. But when I came to Kottayam, I often heard that my students speaking that, sir, in that bus you should not go. There is an idi in that bus. Busil bhayangara idi aanu. Means busil bhayangara idi aanu means it means that it's in the particular bus, it is population is so thick, so you cannot enter into the bus. That is the meaning. But the word same idi is applied in different context. So its meaning is completely different, and then its actions are different. So what I'm saying is that in performance, very integral part is the text, and text is always composed in a language, and language is not always performed in a universal or homogeneous way. it depends on the texture. So performance part one is the text and second part is the texture. What is texture? I mean, when you study tech on performance, these things are very integral to the performance studies. So texture means the way you do it is a texture. I will just elaborate on that. I will take a song from the I will take a song from Hindi for the clarity of all the audience, all the people. You might have heard about Mehdi Hasan. Mehdi Hasan just passed away 2 years ago. I mean, his song, one song is very famous. Ranjishi Sahi. Ranjishi Sahi. Ranjishi Sahi. Ranjishi Sahi is a name of a song. People would know about it. I mean, it's an internationally well-known song. Mehdi Hasan has sang it very nice in a very variety of forms. The same song he sang in a 101 forms, various forms. So Ranjishi Sahi means it's my beloved lover. That is the meaning of it. I mean, Sahi. If you are coming, what the meaning of that song? It's a famous ghazal. So it has sung in 101 ways. The same words are sung in a very different way, and that makes also the performance. For example, this Ranjishi Sahi, Ranjishi Sahi, Ranjishi Sahi, दिल दुकानों की लिए रंजिशी सखी. This is a song. If you are saying, don't say that you are going, don't insist that you are going today. Ranjishi Sahi, if you are coming, that will be, that is dil dukkanon ki dukkam narakkanala. If you are coming, you are going to fill my hearts with the sorrows. Even then you come. That is the meaning of that song. Even then you come. If you are coming, I mean, I am going to be in a very sad condition. You will pour sorrows to my pain to my heart. But even then you come. Ranjishi Sahi. Don't that don't make don't go away from me. I mean, that is a kind of a meaning. I mean, broad meaning of that song. But that song is a word. It's a word. It's a text. Ranjishi Sahi is a text. But when it convert it to a song, you take the word mixing with the pitch and tone, and you make it as a song and sing. See, when you sing it, Ranjishi Sahi, Ranjishi Sahi, you play with that text. You play with that text, or you play the text musically. You play the text musically. Then it becomes a song, and that song also can be performed very, very, very different ways. 101 times you can do it in a very different competition, permutations and combinations. You can sing the same song in a very multiple ways. But what it means, it is a texture. That is what I am saying, that what you learned as a text, you can talk it in a language. You can talk it, you can speak in that language, and you can convey the meaning. You can make effect upon others. You can communicate the meaning. But the same thing, you do it in a different way. Like, if people want to realize that it is a song, you should take up certain modalities to do that, or to modalities to play with that words. That word is called as texture. So one is important, text. Second is texture. So when you want to understand performances, you should understand what is text. Then second is the texture. Texture is the actual recitation, the form of recitation, the form of expression, the form of the phonemes and morphemes. That is integral part of this texture. So when you sing a folk song, For example, you should look, it should feel like a folk song. But when you write it, you can write it in any way. You can write in any language. People can read. It is just a text. It never produces emotions into it. It produces emotions, but in a textual way. When you read a novel, it produces emotion. I know that. But when it make it as a performative one, when you recite a poem, when you read a poem, and when you recite a poem and then hear it, the same poem when you hear in a reciting form, it is different effect that we have. So that reciting part is morphemes, phonemes, pitch, intonation, everything is integral part of it. Then only people will say that, people feel that it is a poem recited or song sung in a better way. There are a number of songs sung in a very different ways. So the same song, Denjishi Sakhi, has been sung by Mehdi Hasan as well as Talat Aziz in a very different form. You can Googleize, you can look at the YouTube and hear the same song sung by Mehdi Hasan and Talat Aziz is a different one. It's the same song but sung in a very different way. That part is called as texture. And second and third one is important to understand a performance is the context. So what kind of context that you are studying it. I mean, in what kind of context, social context that you are understanding or that you are locating your performance. What kind of social context? Social contexts are different. For example, when you see Kathakali, if you are not aware or not in the way in which it has been constructed, and as a person you are not at all connected to the culture of Kathakali or the locality of that Kathakali, I mean cultural locality of Kathakali, you cannot enjoy Kathakali because you are nowhere related to that particular culture. But if you are so much aware, if you are not so much part of the Opana, the one of the folk dance form of Mappilas in Malabar, Opana as kind of a group dance at the time of marriage. That's in the past. It starts from the morning and it continues completely a day. It perform complete throughout the day. Now it just changed. Now it performed only for half an hour in the marriage function. But in the earlier time, it is not like that. I mean, early times means 20-25 years ago, you see Opana is performed in the very morning till evening, then again in the night, and then continues to the morning. That is the Opana, the long Opana that we have performed. But now it has been capsulized in the sense of it has cut into short, into half an hour. It converted as a competition item in the school festival. Opana is a competition item in the school festival nowadays. It performed 20 minutes. It performed 20 minutes, and there are masters, experts who evaluate the Opana. Which Opana is best Opana? What is the logic of it? I don't know. But that became a part of the competition item. It became a competition genre in that sense. Gradually, a folk form never can be evaluated. A folk form, a folk dance, folk song, or any of that sort never can be evaluated as such. You cannot come with certain kinds of rules and regulations to determine that this Opana is better and that Opana is not that much better. No, it is not that kind of well conducted, well crafted performance forms that can be compared to classical songs or classical dances. Classical dances, if you want to do a Mohiniyattam, you should perform. You should observe certain rules and regulations of your body movement. Otherwise, it cannot be a Mohiniyattam. You cannot do that. But that is not the way that is connected to the folk traditions. But folk tradition, you have immense freedom. You have an immense freedom, but the one kind of component is integral. and that you can improvise in a multiple levels. You can improvise on your own context, but that mainly controlled by the social context. So that is a kind of thing which one should aware about the performance studies. And I know that what I have narrated is text, context, texture, and context. So now let me come to the folk traditions. See, folk traditions. Folk means it's not a well-defined one, but at the same time, a folk genre is well connected and integrally embedded to our life, integrally socially embedded in our life. A folk tradition, you cannot neglect as language, as actions in your life. You cannot neglect, you cannot avoid, or you cannot stay away from folk traditions, no matter which religion, which locality that we live our life, that will affect your life. The folk traditions will always memorialize past. Folk tradition is an important aspect, is that it will memorialize your past. The past will be recited, past will be explained, past will be presented by folk traditions. So when you hear a folk song, it is its main duty of the folklore are its duty, means its functions. Its functions of folklore are memorializing our past, memorializing our life. So you recite a folk song, it means that you are memorializing yourself, you are memorializing your ancestors' self, you are memorializing your locality, social context. If you remove anything of this sort from folk song, then it doesn't exist in that society. Why do a folk tradition exist in a society? It means that it performs a function. It performs a social function. Then only a folk tradition can exist in that society. Otherwise, it will die. That is what we call that it is a dying folklore. Why did Opera is still there in our North Malabar life, is because it has some function to perform in the society, at least in the time of the marriage. So that is exist. So that has been eroded in a very tremendous way, because its functions, its social functions has come down to the minimal level. So it then that is why it reduced it to one half an hour program. Otherwise, it will be a 1 or 2 days program. You see, that is a kind of thing. That is a kind of speciality of folk traditions. Now, what is connection with the folk tradition? You see, tradition. What is the meaning of tradition? Malayalam or in Sanskrit, it is known as parambara. You all know that. Parambara. Parambara means generation from generations. From one parambara, from one generation to another generation. It transfers from one generation to another generation. Because see, if maybe in one generation there won't be any linguistic ideas. There won't be any words in one generation. There won't be any word. Aligida. From Aligida world, unwritten world, from unwritten world to the written world. You can travel from unwritten world to the written world. That is a parambara. You don't know where it is located, where it is represented, where it is written, or where it is recorded. You cannot make sense of that. Tradition, you cannot make sense of that. Tradition is where did it recorded its meaning, where did it record its rhythms, its forms of articulation. You cannot locate it exactly because it transferred from one old generation to the next generation, and that has been handed over to the another generation. Not exactly that is handed over from the another generation, the old generation. So one generation has given you a certain kind of tradition, and then slowly you handed it over to your younger generation. But remind you, you are not handing over the same tradition that have handed over to you by your older generation. See, you cannot do that because it is not like exchanging a commodity. It is not like exchanging money. It is not like exchanging something else, something observable thing. No, it will take up its own form in your hand. It will take up its own shape in your hand according to the text, texture, and the context in which you live. And then that particular context, after that, you hand it over to your younger generation, and your younger generation will pass into the other generation the same thing that you have given to them, but not the exact thing that you have given to them. They will make it, modify themselves, and then travel, and then they will transfer into the another generation. So that in that process, the tradition are always subject to the changes of the society, changes of not only of the social aspect, changes of the aesthetic sensibilities, change in the words, change in the use of language, and the change in the actions and performances of the people. That all reflected in the tradition. So you cannot say that tradition is a tradition as if it is unchangeable, static one. No, tradition is always subjected to change, and we accept certain traditions unconsciously, not consciously. Sometimes consciously, and in many cases, traditions are affected in our life unconsciously. People perform marriage functions. Many people doesn't know what to do. Why do we do all these kinds of drama, social drama, of of going to one house to another in a procession, and sometimes with up team beat drums, people dance and go to the bride's house, and bride's house people come to the groom's house. There are all kinds of social drama is performed around marriage. Actually, what is the rationality of the people? If you ask the rational or reason of it, there is no answer to that. People doesn't have any answer to that kind of question. Why do you do all these kinds of thing? To do a simple thing of that, the simple thing of two people, a man and woman, started living together, and you celebrate it socially. You make it a very social drama of marriage, and so many ritual ceremonies are performed, and people can ask you, why do you do it? What is the meaning of it? If something is somebody is asked such a question, a reasonable question, a rational question, there is no answer for that question in tradition, and that is what is tradition. So this is what I'm saying, is that one way it is memorializing our past, ourself, the self we have been constructed in from the past, and then the self we ourselves have made in our present life and have given to our younger generations. So that is a kind of thing. Come to the life of a performer. My talk is about narrativizing performances. These are all the theoretical conceptual background of the performance studies and performance in relation to folk traditions. If you are interested in performance studies, Richard Schachner is one of the important person who have done this performance studies internationally. Richard Schachner's performance studies, as a book is there. And also, if you are not so much interested in performance as acting, we all know that Konstantin Stanislavski text, that is an actor prepares. The text is the text is titled as An Actor Prepares. In that text, he he come up with a very interesting concept of emotional memory. Whatever you act in the society, or whatever you act on the stage, or whatever you act in your life before yourself, you also act. See, we all act not only for audience, we also act for ourselves. When you go to when you see your images in a mirror, and you talk to yourself in the mirror, and then do you see that the same you are there in the mirror? No, your reflection it is. I accept you are there in the mirror, but the mirror image of yours, the mirror image that you see in from the mirror, is not the exact image of yourself, because it look at you. When you look at you look at the mirror, the mirror looking at you. But whatever you act, the mirror will do it the same thing. But you cannot say that the exact you are there in the mirror. No, you are not there in the mirror. You are there in the room, not in the mirror. You are there in you. You are there in you. So emotion memory is one of the one of the actors, one of the performers, emotive agency to perform something. So when you see, what is emotion memory? When you see something, when you see a dead body, some dead body, you see a dead body, and then you are not actually thinking about that dead body, actual dead body. You are thinking about the dead body of your intimate person, dead body of your own relatives, the dead body of your own, your beloved person. Then automatically you started to cry. You will start to cry. The dead body of an unknown person is there on the road. You saw it. But actually what you are seeing is not the unknown dead body. That dead body memorize you, the dead persons that you are so connected with, or the dead person of the person who are so integrally connected to your life or emotionally attached to you. Thereby you cry, or thereby everybody cry. Thereby we all cry sometimes while viewing the movie, because we connected it with our own experience. We connect all those experience to our own experience. Then we started emotionally behaving. I mean, we started acting in a different way. We sometimes cry, we sometimes become happy, and that we will express in manifold ways. So that is a kind of thing. So it is not, so it's an emotion memory that makes you to travel as an actor, to travel as a performer into the world. Now come to the narrativizing part of the performance. This is a one way of narrativizing. That is the theoretical and conceptual ways of narrativizing performances. Second is the experiential way of narrativizing the performance. For example, I am a performer. I, from my childhood onwards, performed the K.A.H.M, the ritual traditional form of North Malabar. I will tell you one. I will just I will try to narrativize my own performance, and I will read one or two paragraphs of my own life sketch as a performer and as a person who belongs to that particular society, where you can connect to the text, texture, and context. Let me read the narrative which I have written, and then I will come to the other part of the lecture. As I have been born into a community of K.A.H.M performers, traditionally belonging to North Malabar, this ritual art form has become, since childhood onwards, my life itself and sad predicaments. The childhood, in fact, is teeming with myriad remembrances of myself, accompanying father and mother, going from house to house, singing and playing tudi, and coming back driving off evil spirits from their horse. Though the ritual practice of Gurusi, the rite of making different colors out of water and as part of rite of sacrificing a cock was a very ritual, colorful event. Our life remained colorless and drab, the realization of which has made me withdrawing myself away from the pomp and show of customs and shibboleth, but as though the custom of dancing in a wild frenzy carves as the deity of the locality, was a continuation of a ritual imposed and dictated by the higher caste orders of feudal hierarchy. I was forced to perform it every year as it was for the welfare and well-being of a village and villagers, inclusive of all castes and classes, and I was vested with the temporary privilege of blessing them all in a state of bordering on a trance. See, you want, if you narrate your own performance, then that personal narrative itself is a one way of talking about or writing about performances. So my life was, in the very beginning of my childhood onwards, I was performing as God and Goddess in front of the local villages. In front of the villages, I transcend to the state of God. I dance in a frenzy mode and blessing others. They will come to me and they will address me as God, not as me as a person. They will address me as God and they will tell me their problems, their life world problems. And I am supposed to bless them. I am supposed to give them answers to their problem in a possessed state of mind. I had to, I had to tell them their problems and the way forward for their future life. So I will tell you one thing. When the last time when I was accompanying with my father to a house where we take up a role as a performer of the Veden. Veden means a Veden is a character. Veden is a character we performed in the month of Karkadaga, the month of heavy rainy season. And that season we perform this performance, this folk tradition. We go to each and every houses. The meaning of the function of this particular form is to ward off evil eyes from their houses and to bless them the good. Then 5 years ago, when I did this, there were many different kind of people. As you all know, in North Malabar village, you see the hardcore communist ideas and ideologies, which is translated into the minds of people. So people who are rational and reasonable and think in a very rational way, they started asking me questions. These are all old practices. These are all, irrational practices and performances. Why do you do this? A Marxist told me. A Marxist asked me. And in folk tradition, there is no answer to that. Why do it? Because the whole households are requesting us to come to their house in the form of the Veden. Why do they ask us to come? I asked them. Why do they ask us to come? They are communist. They are also, belongs to particular caste. They also go for the tradition. So even if they are very rational being, they are forced to accept this tradition. So you cannot you cannot completely eradicate this tradition. So even in the red pride villages of Kannur, you see the large number of performances of Theyyam. You see 400 forms of Theyyam, small and big. They all dance in a trance as god and goddesses, and they accept it. The villagers accept it. So I will finish it within 5 minutes. So they have asked me, and then one of the person who asked my father while we are acting performing is that my father's name is Swami. I mean, people have given a name to him. His actual name is not Swami. People have named him because he's a performer, folk traditional performer. So people have every right on this kind of people. His performer is a social wealth. It's a social property, not an individual property. So what they have named is, my father is named by a Swami. Swami, they asked me, they asked my father, the the public distribution system and all are working very well, in these times. Then what is the meaning of it? The public distribution ration shops are working very well. And why do you go for this kind of traditions, going house to house and drumming and dancing? That is, they ask. Because they are connected with the rice. They're connected with the rice of the rice that is for our life. They think that we are all doing this because to get some portion of rice from their house. Actually, at that time, we started thinking about it. I asked my father to stop it because they think that it is a part of, they're connected with the public distribution system. They're connected with the ration shop rather than thinking about the tradition. But it comes again. Again, people are coming and asking us to perform it in the rural villages. So what I'm saying, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to narrate the life of life of myself as a performer. I'm trying to tell you that one way of explaining about the complexities of performances is to narrate the personal narratives or the narrative of the audience. What you have seen a film, you try to narrate how do it affected you, what all thing that you thought about while seeing a movie or while seeing a dead body on the roadside, what it affected you is important. That you should write. Then only the making of the text of the performance will be completely in a better form. That's a one way of doing it, one way of channels of writing, that narrativizing our own story in relation to a performance channel. And by this, I stop here. I think I spoke around 1 hour, and now it is time for you to, if you have any questions and queries or comments, you can do that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the
Honorable guest Dr. Rajesh Komath, my dear teachers and friends. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. On behalf of K.A.H.M Women's College and the Department of History and Research of English, I extend hearty gratitude to our beloved guest Dr. Rajesh Komath, Associate Professor, MG University, Kottayam, for this informative and interesting session. Thank you so much, sir, for being here and
welcome.
valuable